webinar is about constructing campaigns, and we're going to be talking about 3 different ways to follow up after a trade show. We had a lot of people ask us, I've got this handful of business cards after NBAA, what exactly am I supposed to be doing with them? I spent a lot of money to come to the show and get this handful of business cards, but now what do I do, right? So what you do with those is actually the difference between failure and success, or at least the financial failure and financial success of a trade show, right?
And it boosts your ROI or reduces it, as the case may be.
Exactly. So the agenda today, follow-up campaign from a trade show. Why? To sell more stuff, right?
Precisely.
Okay. So we're going to go briefly over phase 1, which is the trade show itself. And then we're going to spend most of the time on phase 2 campaign, which is basically following up and making sales from those prospects that we made at the trade show. And we're going to talk about A, B, and C lists, because not all prospects are created equal, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And are we selling something on this webinar?
Of course.
Why, yes, thank you for asking. On our free webinars, we do spend the last 15 or 20 minutes with a special offer that you can take advantage of or not, but I promise you will get your money's worth out of this free webinar one way or another. We do try to offer a lot of really good content that you can go forth and use, because the better people do in this industry, the better we all do. And the more people will be able to afford our services, so that's good for us, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So first of all, I'm Paula Williams.
And I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help you ladies and gentlemen out there sell more products and services in the aviation world.
Absolutely. And some of you guys we just met. I know you're here for the first time. You met us at NBAA, or you just saw an ad for this webinar. So really quickly, if you don't know anything about ABCI, or you don't know anything about John and I, and you're wondering, why the heck should I listen to you people? We're not making this up. We really do a lot of marketing in the aviation industry. We are members of AOPA, NBAA, HAI, a lot of the aviation associations and things like that. We go to a lot of trade shows with our clients and for ourselves. We are members of PMI, Project Management Certified. We're Infusionsoft certified, if these things mean anything to you.
Sounds like we ought to be certifiable.
We ought to be certifiable, exactly. And GKIC Insider Circle, if you're coming from that part of the world, you understand the difference between inbound and outbound marketing. We've been members of the Peak Performers Group for a number of years, and we're really into Dan Kennedy and Planet Dan, as they say, right?
Exactly.
And John and I vicariously went through the David Eccles School of Business at the University of Utah, so I did help with all your homework. Some of it, anyway.
Well,
at least the marketing stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so that's who we are, and that's why you should listen to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why bother planning campaigns? Why not just do stuff? Because it doesn't work. There's a phenomenon that we call random acts of marketing, and basically most people in the aviation industry are doing just exactly that. They're just kind of doing what feels right, or what opportunities come up. They see an ad for a trade show, they think, okay, this is great. We can get booth space at $100 off. And that may or may not be a good deal, depending on whether or not it fits into your marketing plan, right?
Exactly. Sorry, I had to cough.
Oh, okay, cool. That's been going around a lot lately, so these things happen. But campaigns do a lot for us, and we're going to talk about some of the benefits of campaigns, but the biggest one is we sell more stuff. The second biggest one is we spend less money doing it. So those are the 2 reasons that we want to do campaigns as opposed to random acts of marketing.
Yes.
Okay, so when we talk about campaigns, there's kind of a little bit of a confusing split between marketing systems and marketing campaigns. Now we say that everyone should have a marketing system, And it looks like a couple of hands are going up with folks that can't hear us.
Uh-oh.
Okay, looks like we're back. Dang, I thought we had that fixed.
I think we did. I think it wasn't our problem.
Okay. There may be some funky transient issues with the internet, but we'll do our best to make sure that we stay on the air. Marketing systems are like your everyday infrastructure, your CRM, your website, your supplies, your staff, your training, other kinds of things that you invest in so that you are ready and able to do marketing campaigns, right?
Yep.
Okay. So marketing campaigns are temporary efforts to accomplish an objective, just like a military campaign. It's supposed to have an objective, and it's supposed to be a temporary set of activities that's going to bring about a specific result, right? Campaigns are also called sales or promotions, a temporary thing that you do for a set amount of time in order to increase sales or accomplish a specific objective. And they're usually confined to a single phase of your marketing system. So what is a campaign for? First you want to look at which phase do you need to improve and what problem do you need to solve. And in this example, we do two, right? The first is the trade show and the second is the follow-up afterwards. So in any case, your objectives should be SMART, which means strategic, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And I know we go through all of that in other webinars, so hopefully you have all that. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. So phase one, of course, in a marketing system is advertising and prospecting. Phase two is building credibility and closing sales. And phase three is referrals, resells, and recaptures. So if we look at phase one, our objective of the trade show was to go to the trade show and to collect warm, qualified prospects, right?
Yep.
Okay, so a lot of people bite off more than they can chew at a trade show and try to accomplish too much, and that's why they're really obnoxious at trade shows. Okay, all we want to do is, make a friend, or at least make an acquaintance and get an idea of what they do, how we can help them, how they can help us, if there's any inner synergy there, if they seem like somebody that we'd want to work with. Phase two, our objective is making sales. So we did actually separate those two things, or those two campaigns in this process. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the three elements of a successful campaign. Phase one goal, warm contacts. Our list was NBAA attendees, right?
Yes. Okay.
Our offer was free consultations and marketing advice. Your offer may have been, free advice about whatever it is that you're selling. It may have been a product demonstration at your booth. It may have been an education session where you're offering, a specific educational objective. Whatever that offer is, hopefully it was a good one and got you lots of leads, right? And if you didn't get lots of leads, it may be because your offer stunk.
Let's just digress for a moment.
Okay.
Typically, sales are not made at trade shows. Mm-hmm. There's always the one-off, but when you hear about a company doing lots of sales, they announce it there, or they may close it there, but it's been in the work for months.
Exactly. This is not retail. We're not selling snow cones, and we're not,
just like Bell,
mm-hmm.
not this trade show, but the previous one, I don't know, they sold 100 of something and they were billions of dollars and so on, but that's cool. Mm-hmm. But they do it because of the PR.
They announced the sale at the trade show, but the deal had been in the works for months.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there are some exceptions for that. If you look at like Musty Putters is one that has a booth, they sell putters at NBAA, and there were a few people who were actually buying them at the trade show. There's another company that sells models that are less than $100, and they were selling some items there. So it does happen, but for the most part, our objective for phase one is just warm contacts. So the third thing is the presentation. And our presentation included postcards, invitations, social media, email, and phone calls to specific people saying, we're going to be at NBAA. Are you going to be as well? Let's make an appointment to sit down and talk. These things don't just happen by themselves. Just because you're going to a trade show doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to come up and throw their business card at you and decide to do business with you. this really does take a lot more effort than most people imagine, even in phase one, and even just to get warm contacts. Okay, so that's phase one. Our goal, our list, our offer, and our presentation. Okay, so did it work? Yes, it did. And it did for a lot of our clients as well. This is Pat Lemieux with CLA. He had a booth, and it was a great booth. They had a basketball theme. You know, they pretended that they had mistaken NBAA for NBA, you know, the Basketball Association. So they did a really great job, I'm sure, of collecting leads. You know, we had networking events like our breakfast. I think everybody at the table exchanged business cards. And some folks ended up having some ideas, you know, where they could do business together just based on that networking event. And there were lots of them, coffees and dinners and breakfasts and things like that going on at NBAA. Education sessions is another place where you can really shine, you know, and present your base of knowledge and help people understand more about what you do. And our goal for next year is to have every one of our clients presenting an education session if we can. It's probably an unachievable goal.
Yeah, but you got to shoot for something.
But we got to shoot for something, exactly. And it might be at regionals as opposed to the national show. But, you know, one way or another, we want to get more of our folks doing those education sessions. So that's another really great way to collect leads. Walking the floor, you know, going to booths, just running into people. Lots of things happen there. You know, again, we went out of our way before the show to give people 3 ways to connect with us. Of course, we had our networking breakfast for people who are already clients. We had the education session, and we also did free consultations by appointment. So we did a lot of work prior to the show to make sure that we were going to get a lot of leads. And did it work?
Absolutely.
Okay. So yes, it did.
Matter of fact, this is the best show we've had.
Right. So yes, it did. And these are our actual results. We're showing you what really happened with us, and your results may vary, even at the same show. But at any show, you know, whether this is NBAA or any other show that you're presenting at, your goal is not really to collect business cards. They're just kind of symbolic of the people that we actually shook hands with and made real contact with. Okay, so our C list. Okay, first of all, I need to tell you about our lists, right? Before I start dealing cards. We make 3 stacks when we get, actually usually before we get home. In the hotel room, we make 3 stacks of cards. We have our C list, which is people that we may do business with at some point in the future, or that may know somebody who we may do business with at some point in the future, but, you know, not a real specific business opportunity, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have our B list, which is people who did express interest in a specific product or service, but that we don't know necessarily are qualified customers. And by qualified, we mean, you know, do they have the means, the authority, and the need to purchase our product? So they may be further down the food chain than we'd like them to be, or, you know, whatever the situation is, but they're good contacts anyway.
Right.
Better than C list. And then our A list contacts, we have 6, and those are people who we expect to do business with very soon. And the reason for that is because, you know, they expressed a specific interest in a specific product or service, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. I cover for you when you cough. You should cover for me when I need a drink, right?
Well, that's okay, except that, you know, sometimes I don't have anything to say at that point. And I'm not going to sit here and dance verbally.
Of course you do. Okay, so we're going to call that mission accomplished, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we did a really good job of our phase 1 campaign, and we collected warm leads.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, questions so far?
There's a couple.
Okay, good. I know you answered one already, and that was, you know, can you just sell at the trade show? And the answer is probably not, especially if you sell a complex or a large ticket product, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't count on selling anything there. If you do, take it and run, but not as your plan of action. So they saw all the contacts that we got. How many contacts should you get?
That varies quite a bit. If you're selling business jets and you have just one for sale and you're looking for a buyer for a global, you may only need one contact.
Well, that's,
right?
if you're a broker, sure, but if you're, okay, suppose you're a manufacturer of business jets.
Right. Then you're looking for fewer than if you're selling a smaller or simpler product.
But on the other hand,
mm-hmm.
as far as I know, we don't have any, we got some brokers, but we don't have any manufacturers. So down further to people who are selling services
mm-hmm.
and or products.
Yeah, so the numbers that we got I think are good. It was 40 something if you look at the total. So 6.
Yeah, about 45 or so.
Right, exactly. 6 that we think we're going to do business with right away, 13 that go in our B pile, and 26 in our C pile. That was a good year for us. If you did half that, you still should do really well. And assuming that your product sells for several $1,000s, you should make your a good return on investment if you make those 3 sales and then make some other sales out of your B and C lists, right?
And half that would be, okay, let's say 21.
Mm-hmm.
And you're there 3 days. That's only 7 a day.
Exactly, right. So that's not so bad.
And you could be there at the show for close to 8 hours.
Yeah.
9 maybe.
And if you didn't make enough, you need to improve your pre-game, your pre-show game, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So continue. How can you get more contacts?
Okay, yeah, that was a good question as well. Thank you for leading us on to that line of thought. Other ways that you can get more contacts would be to attend more networking events, do more work prior, call your LinkedIn contacts that you think might be going to NBAA and set appointments with them, do an education session, when they do the calls for speakers. When you get your calendar from ABCI, if you're a customer, you're going to get all the calls for speakers on that calendar, so you'll know when to submit those proposals and things like that. Make sure you have an education session lined up. If you can do that, that's the very best way, because then you can do some kind of a sweepstakes or a door prize in your session and get everybody's business card. You can also do trivia quizzes in your booth. You can do a drawing from your booth. There's lots of ways that you can encourage people to make contact with you or leave you their contact information.
And this was not really a question,
mm-hmm.
but a comment.
Okay.
So not all contacts are about sales.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point. Not all contacts are about sales. And sometimes you can make your return on investment just from a partnership that you make at one of these events. So it's not always about sales. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that. Okay. So Phase 2 campaign, just like we had our Phase 1 campaign, we did mission accomplished, we're feeling good. Now we have to do another campaign, now that we have these piles of cards, right? Okay, our work is not done. Okay, so our C list, I'm going to say, let's say we can make 2 sales out of that pile in 8 months.
And how do you know that?
Okay, the way that I am making these assumptions is because I know our sales cycle average is 8 months. And I know that from looking at years and years of CRM data.
So where did you pick the number 2?
I think we can make 1 out of 10, a little less than 1 out of 10. So about.
And again, based on history.
Yeah, based on history, exactly. Okay, because those are unwashed masses, right?
See, here's another good reason to have a CRM that maintains all this data.
Right.
So that you can go back and figure out what your sales numbers are and how you can project for the next one, and you're just doing the same level of work.
Right, exactly. So I can forecast what our revenue is going to be based on past data because we've kept all that data. And even if you don't have a perfect CRM, capture the data because sometime you will. Or you can get somebody like John to crunch the data in Excel for you and come up with some of these averages and numbers and things like that, so you can do forecasting, which is nice, right? It gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling of security knowing how much we're going to make next year, right?
Projected to make.
Exactly. Okay. Of our B list, I'm going to say we're going to make 2 sales in 4 months. Okay, so it's still only 2 sales, but out of fewer contacts, I think I'm going to have a better chance of making a sale. And I think it's going to take less time because these are people who have already expressed an interest in a specific product or service. Okay? With me so far?
Of course.
Okay. And A-list, I'm going to make 4 sales in 2 months out of 6 cards. Now, this is really aggressive. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but these are all people who we specifically made plans at the show for them to buy a particular product, and they were already thinking past the sale, this is what I'm going to do, this is how it's going to work, and so on.
Well, and a good indicator is the fact that you had somebody call up and say, why aren't we working with you yet?
Exactly. Are we started yet? So, yeah, I think that's a pretty confident and aggressive but good goal for us, right?
True.
Okay, so this is specific. Specific, measurable, achievable, results-based,
and time-bound.
Or relevant and time-bound, yeah. So all of that is good stuff. We have a good objective. All right, so how are we going to accomplish this objective? Our goal is sales, right? So our list is our A, B, and C list. Our offer, and we came up with this offer, I'm actually going to tell you more about this in a minute, but is a free personal branding service with a qualifying purchase. Okay, so we're giving away something for free with a purchase if they make that purchase in November. Okay, and the presentation is going to vary by list, and we're going to show you our A, B, and C presentation, right? Okay, cool. All right, so our offer is get our personal branding program free with any qualifying purchase before November 31st, 2016. All right, so why personal branding? I chose that because a lot of people were asking us questions that were relevant to that product at the show. They were saying, how do I manage my personal social media accounts, right? So if you had a lot of people asking a specific question at the show, then you know a pretty good percentage of those people are going to be interested in a specific thing. So you can create an offer that is tailored to that list, right?
Yes. Okay,
cool. Free is a wonderful thing, everybody's favorite word. Okay, but we don't want to leave it at that. We don't want to attract freebie seekers because those are no good for our business. They just spend our time without adding to our revenue, right?
That's right.
Okay. With any qualifying purchase, and why is that important?
Because you can make qualifying purchase $100,000.
It isn't, but still, these are people who actually are. The barrier is that they do have to spend money with us in order to get this freebie, which is the thing that they want, right?
Right.
Okay. And November 31st, 2016. Okay. If you were just starting your follow-up now, you might want to say December 15th because you want to put it a little bit out in the future, but you do want to have something that's aggressive that they have to act on in some way, or at least start acting on, start getting an approval for right away, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is targeted, this requires a purchase, this has urgency, it's consistent across all 3 lists. We're not being unfair to people, we're not making deals or anything like that. This is available to anyone, whether they met us at NBAA or at this webinar or anything else.
That's right, even the webinar they can do.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So this is a phase 2. We had talked about this. Phase 1 was the show itself. Phase 2 is building credibility and closing sales. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit more. What do we get when we dig into phase 2? What options do we have for our presenting this offer? We could do regular emails. We could do printed mail newsletters. We could do direct mail presentations. We could do social media conversations. All of this should be repeated, right? That's why it's in a circle. So it's going to take more than one contact, and then we also have phone calls, which are not really a marketing activity. So, follow-up sales calls and formal sales presentations. So if somebody asks us to present to their board or to their boss or anything else, we either go there or we do it on a GoToMeeting or whatever we need to in that process, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So how do we figure out which of those things, and this is our standard phase 2 Swiss Army knife, right? But we have to figure out which of these things we're going to do specifically for these people. So our C list, time is forever, okay? We assume an 8-month sales cycle, but we're not going to take them off if they don't buy in 8 months. We're going to leave them on forever. Our cost is going to be $8 times 26 is $208, right? Okay. And our labor is going to be less than 1 hour. And how are we going to do all that? We're going to use this timeline right here. We're going to send a postcard right away. We actually already sent those immediately after NBAA. We had those printed beforehand, so they were ready to go. And then we're going to send a weekly email forever. These are our Marketing Mondays. And those don't really sell anything. Those are just intended to keep us top of mind with people. And, we send those once a week because people get busy, they forget, all kinds of things like that. Every once in a while, we're going to send an email offer, which outlines the details of that offer, free personal branding when you make a purchase, right? Mm-hmm. And then a month later, we're going to send another postcard. So 2 postcards times 26 people, that's really not very expensive. And it takes us less than an hour to do that. I'm not making phone calls. I'm not, doing anything other than using our software to get them into our CRM. And then it doesn't matter whether I send that to 1 person or 20 people or 50 people. It still takes me about the same amount of time.
And postcards work, by the way.
Yes, they do.
I bought 2 airplanes based on somebody sending me a postcard and keeping after it, and it was on the 4th or 5th postcard, 4th or 5th month when I actually consummated the sale.
Exactly. So not specifically qualified. So these are our C list, and these are basically the vast majority of people. And this is also the basis for the follow-up that we're going to use for everybody else. This is the baseline of what we're going to do. So our B list is going to get this plus additional things, and our A list is going to get this plus additional things as well, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's our C list. How do we do this, and how do we keep the cost so low? We automate what we can. This is what it looks like in, actually this is a different campaign, but this is in Infusionsoft. And you can see we can set these up ahead of time, so we have 8 or 12 or 20 emails ready to go at specific dates, and we can spend an afternoon putting together however many emails we can write to get those set up and ready to go. We can also track our progress using the CRM, and you can see here, this was a specific email that was opened, it had a 24% open rate. This one had a 36% open rate. So of these, time building, and this one was actually for a flight school program, was our very best performer in this category. So we know we need to write more like that, and so on. And we can see how many people opened them and how many people clicked on the links in those emails. Okay, and then we can also see, this is a feature of almost every CRM, and that is lead scoring. Not almost every CRM, but
the one we use is middle of the road.
Yeah.
Salesforce obviously is the Cadillac, and they do it differently, but they do a version of that. And what's the other one below it? This
Active Campaign. I'm not sure if they have
I don't think they do that. MailChimp doesn't do that.
No.
Constant Contact doesn't do that. The less expensive ones have lesser capability.
Right, but they do have this other, you can see how many people opened and clicked in any CRM.
True.
If you have a more advanced CRM like Infusionsoft or Salesforce, then you can also see this other thing, and that is what we call lead scoring. And I can see that John has opened every single email because he has to. He doesn't have a choice, and clicked on every single link because he has to. He does our testing for us. But we have a few other people that open every single email and click on every single link, which makes us feel fabulous. Those are people that we really like, and we know then that those are the people that we want to spend time answering their calls and or even reaching out to them and saying, is there anything we can help you with specifically? So we can set up alerts for hot leads when somebody passes a specific score, we can reach out to them and say, what can we do for you? And or send them something a little nicer, and so on. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So far? Okay. B-list. Here's our timeline, and what we did is we added a handwritten note, and this does change just one thing, and that's the amount of labor involved. It also changes the cost a little bit because we're going to send this first-class mail and so on. So this handwritten note is really the biggest difference between our C list and our B list. But we're still keeping our costs low. We're also going to make a monthly phone call. And I don't have that on the timeline because it's not really a marketing activity. It's a sales activity. But about once every 4 weeks or once every 6 weeks, we're going to give them a call, and we're going to find a reason to get in touch with them. Did you see our latest article on this? Or have you made a decision yet about what we talked about last time? Or you asked me to get back in touch with you after the first of the year. Or whatever excuse we can come up with to ideally touch base with them by phone one more time. Okay, so more time, a little bit more money, but we're just kind of stepping up our game for people that are more qualified.
Which is what needs to be done.
Okay, so the handwritten notes, people ask us, how do you do that? And here's a couple of ways. We have some nice stationery that I really like. We got from a local company that does engraving, and it's got some nice linings in the envelopes and so forth. This needs to match your branding, and it also needs to match your positioning. So, if you're basically the Cadillac in your category, which you probably want to be, then you want this to be really nice. Other folks, I know Centrex does a really nice job with this. They have a note card, which actually saves some space, and I think this is really smart because you don't have to write as much to make it look like you filled the page here. So, if you're really strapped for time or you're really not a writer, those foldable note cards are also really nice and serve the same purpose. Right? But once again, branding and all of those things. Also, these Centrex cards, you can't feel them, but they're a little more rugged and very durable, which, fits their positioning.
Yes.
Okay. So A-list. What did we add for our A-list? Once again, the time is forever. Cost is going to be about $28 times 6. So there's only 6 of them.
You can afford to spend more.
We can afford to spend more money, and we're going to spend about 8 hours each on each of these 6 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how are we going to do that? Mainly, those handwritten notes are going to be a whole lot more detailed. We're also going to create some custom information in their information package so that they know that this is just for them. This is covering the concerns of things that they talked with us about, and it's going to be something that is a lot more persuasive. Another thing we're going to do is connect on social media, and you can do this with your B-list as well. It just takes a little bit more time, but it's another way of making contact here. And we're also going to add the phone calls and everything else. So let's talk about the information package. This is what ours looks like if we explode it out. We've got a lot of stuff in here, and I'm going to give you a complete list of what we have. But of these things, we've got a business card. We've got a little catalog that outlines our products. We've got some product sheets. We've got a book that we wrote last year. We're updating this year. We've got testimonials from current clients, some flyers, and a CD with an interview, a video interview from one of our happy customers. What you don't see is a custom letter that says, here's why I'm sending you all of this stuff, and here's what we talked about when we talked, and here's how I think this is going to solve your problem. So that needs to be a very well thought out, very articulate letter. Okay. So that said, this is what it looks like if you put it together in its folder, and then that whole folder will actually fit into a priority mail envelope. So we can actually assemble most of these ahead of time, and we can put this together prior to the show so that those are ready to send out, other than the handwritten note and the custom letter, right? Okay, cool. So what can go in an information package? We talked about
which,
a letter.
by the way, is one of the reasons that we're so dang busy prior to NBAA.
Exactly. Setting these up for ourselves and for clients. So, we do this for a lot of the folks that we work with as well. Personal letter, offer details, product sheets, a mini catalog, testimonials, case studies, CD, interview with a satisfied customer. Now, why CDs, John? Does anybody actually use CDs anymore?
Well, whether they do or not, split testing has shown that you want to do it, otherwise you could lose big time.
Exactly. So people do have a higher perceived value of a CD than just paper material, and video is more effective than paper. They're more likely to watch it than they are to read it.
And even if the new laptops don't come with CD players, you can get one for $69.95. They'll plug right in, at least into a Mac, and it just works.
Exactly. So those are cool. You can also do the USB drives, that have video or other files on them,
sure,
which is fine too. Tchotchkes, notepads, pens, and stuff like that. We do not recommend giving these out at the trade show because, one, they almost never make it home, and two, you're not qualifying your customers, right?
And three, they cost you money.
Exactly. So you want to spend the money on your A list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And last thing is food. If you wanted to make this a bigger package, you could put this in a flat rate box and send a box of cookies or something like that to really get their attention, make them share it with their office, get them talking about you amongst more than one of them, especially with big organizations where there's more than one person that has to make the decision. That's kind of a nice little trick to get you in the door. So why do campaigns have to be so long and complex?
Because people are complex.
Because people are complex. And the other thing is because of what we call the villain curve, right? If we are selling something, we are automatically the villain, which adds some amount of distrust to their interactions with us. And so we just have to embrace our inner villain. Recognize the fact that there are going to be people who don't appreciate or approve of us just because we are salespeople, which is fine. The only way to overcome that in some cases is time. The other way is providing really, really good information over a span of time, which is why we do long cycle marketing and why we do these long campaigns, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Questions?
Well, there seems to be
a lot.
Several.
I saw a bunch of them dinging in while I was talking and trying not to be distracted. So that's cool. I appreciate you guys being participating. That makes it a lot more fun.
So, should you have a different offer each month?
Yes. So, let's say you have an offer through November 31st. You could have a different one in December. There's no reason that you can't have a different offer, and it could be that the offer that you have this month isn't going to be appealing. So, having a different offer next month just gives you another chance or another opportunity or another reason to call your customers and say, here's what's going on this month. I wanted to make sure you had a chance to think about this because it might fit what we talked about for you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
What if you only sell one thing?
Then,
well, but that one thing could be an airplane, but it could also be a gas cap.
Exactly. So if you only sell one thing, that doesn't mean that you can only have one offer. Let's say that you could have free installation of your gas cap. You could, that's a promotion. You could also send them a frozen turkey. That would be your November promotion. It doesn't have to be relevant to the product necessarily. It just has to be a reason that they need to buy by a certain date.
As a matter of fact, one of our prior clients would send salmon with his
frozen salmon. He's fishing for contacts. So, and it worked. The weirder the better. Strangely enough, usually those are really cost effective. They don't cost a whole heck of a lot, but people do talk about them because nobody in aviation is doing anything innovative like that. So that's cool.
So how often should, I'm going to restate. How often should you make follow-up phone calls?
Okay. Ideally, for every phone conversation, you're going to have one of three outcomes, right?
Absolutely.
Either, here's my money, I'm not interested, or I need something else to make a decision, either more time or more information or more whatever. So let's touch base again in 6 weeks after my boss comes back from Europe, blah, 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 right? So if the answer is yes, then of course you don't have to follow up because you just take their credit card and you carry on from there like they're a customer. If they're not interested, that's fine. You take them off the list, no big deal. That's a perfectly acceptable response, by the way. That's just one less person that you're spending money on and time on in your follow-up process. The third case can drag on forever in this industry and sometimes does for good reasons. And I think our advice is just to put up with it and just say, okay, let's talk again in 6 weeks, or you tell me when the next convenient time would be for you to hear from me again. Let's set an appointment for 6 weeks from now, or 4 weeks from now, or whatever they tell you is appropriate. So I'd ask the customer.
Good idea.
Okay.
So what if you don't have a lot of materials to put into an information package like you guys do?
Okay. Food. You can always get food. You can always get a tin of cookies. You can always, find something interesting to send to them. But you really should have a case study, at least one, that you can send to people, and you really should have some testimonials. If you've been in business for any length of time at all, you should have at least those 2 things that you can send to people: the personal letter, so those 4 things, and you're probably good as a minimal information package. Sound good?
Okay, the last one that I see so far is, what should the topic of follow-up emails be?
Okay. Yeah, you can't send the same thing 8 times, or whatever, You're going to get people unsubscribing and things like that. And that's why I showed you the numbers in our CRM of how many people are opening our emails and how many people are clicking the links. Those really have to be interesting to your customers. And that's why, when we work with folks, we do what we call a content subscription or an editorial calendar, where we say, okay, here's the holidays coming up, here's what's going on in the magazines next month that might be relevant to you. Let's brainstorm some topics that your customers might be interested in, and we can send a tip of the week, we can send a new article every week, whatever you have the time or the budget for. But those really do have to be, the higher quality, the better, the more effective they're going to be. But at a minimum, at least send an email with your offer, and maybe 3 reasons that they should do it, or here are the alternatives to doing this, and here's why ours is better. So at least information about your product, but ideally something more interesting than that, some current news or something.
So far, that's it.
That's it. Okay, good. We're caught up. Hallelujah. Okay, so checklist. First of all, when you're thinking about campaigns, you want to think about which phase of your marketing system needs help. Are you getting enough new leads? Of your new leads, are enough of them closing? Of the ones that close, how many are giving you referrals and testimonials? So which phase of your marketing system is the weakest? And today we did 2 phases. We did phase 1, getting more contacts, more warm contacts, using the show as our marketing activity. Phase 2, we talked about how to get more of those customers to close by building credibility with a campaign, right? Okay. Next checklist item, SMART objectives, strategic, measurable, achievable, results-based, and time-bound, right? Relevant and time-bound. Well, I've seen 2 versions of that depending on who you're reading. Relevant is another good way of saying that. But as long as it's strategic, measurable, achievable, something, either relevant or whatever else they said, and time-bound, those are the really important things. And then you want to figure out a list, an offer, and a presentation. If your campaign stinks, it's probably because you didn't do one of those things right. Either your list is not targeted enough, it's too broad, okay? So you're sending $28 packages to your C list, You know, a lot of people do that, and that's a huge mistake because you're wasting resources. Or they send nothing. This is more common. Send nothing to their A list, thinking that's deals in the bag. You know, we've already made an agreement and have a handshake on a deal to move forward, so I don't need to send them anything. Those people go home and they're in an alternate universe. They forget completely about what you decided at NBAA. So you really do need to seal the deal with a physical something that hits them when they're in their office and back in reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if your if your campaign doesn't work, it's most likely because of the list, or a bad offer, or you didn't do your presentation right, in that order, right? Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. Deploy your campaign and measure your results. When you get a really good campaign, you have hit gold, because you can always take that same campaign, the same materials, update the year pretty much, and do it again. So once you have a good campaign that works, and you know, whether this is a trade show campaign that you can use roll out every year for NBAA, you can prepare your materials ahead of time, you can have the same campaign. We've got clients that we do the same campaign for over and over and over again because it works.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, you know, maybe tweak one thing to make it fresh, and but all the heavy lifting and all the hard work is done. And you know, that is such a huge advantage, huge saver of time and money and headaches. Okay, so rinse and repeat.
Okay.
Okay, so coming up next week, we're going to do a phase 3 campaign, and this is going to be for insiders only. So if you are an insider, you are already invited. If you are not an insider, you might want to think about it, because this is the best ROI for any campaign we have ever run, as our phase 3 campaigns. And you know, by phase 3, of course, we mean let me get there. There's a little more pizzazz on this slide than I really need. Referrals, resells, and recaptures, and also testimonials. It is easier to make a resale or a referral from an existing customer than it is to get a new customer out of the wild. And this is one of the most...
Not only easier, but less expensive.
A whole lot less expensive, exactly. So we're going to talk about some of the referral campaigns that we've done that are really successful. And if you have a really good referral campaign, once again, you can roll that thing out every single year with really good results. Okay, so now we have a special offer of our very own. And of course, we have a list, which is you guys on the webinar. The offer I'm going to tell you about in just a minute, and the presentation you're about to see. So you can look at this from two different standpoints. You know, number one, would this be a good fit for me, and should I consider this product? And number two is giving you an example of another campaign. So this is kind of a bonus for you guys, right?
Sure.
You can look at it that way. All right. So who this is not for, right? This is not for you if you're already a client. This is not for you if $279 a month would take food off your table. And this is not for you if you're not willing to spend some time and energy to get customers. And this is also not for you if you don't play well with others.
What most people fail to realize is that each and every customer you get costs you money.
Absolutely. So, you know, what I'm doing here is I'm kind of, and to give you a little bit of inside baseball, you can do this with your presentations as well. It's what we call takeaway selling, where you say, you know, this is not for you if, and, you know, it really takes the pressure off. You know, some people may just be curious. They can stick around anyway. Some people may be interested, but, you know, if they are, it helps them kind of self-select. Only good customers or only people who are appropriate for this are going to end up making this purchase, right? Mm-hmm. So this offer is for you if you sell something in the aviation industry, right? If you are in the aviation industry or some related field, and if you understand that marketing is not magic, right? If you're still looking for the easy button.
There ain't one.
There isn't one, exactly. Okay. So the Insider Circle is our very best deal. I have to say that because it's not just us. It's you get help from a lot of different people. the reason that we set this up is because a lot of our clients ended up being really good for each other accidentally. And so we thought, how can we facilitate this process and make this more helpful and more valuable for everyone? So success is about what you know and about who you know. You really want to save time, money, and your reputation by having people that you can run things by before they go out in the wild and before you have 1 million copies printed of something. You want to focus on what's relevant, and this really helps us do that because we focus on one topic a month and really make that work. We have next, for 2017, we're going to be even more focused on one goal a month that we're going to try and accomplish with every single client. And we want to make sure that we don't reinvent hot water. If somebody has a good idea or something good that works for everyone, and we're not competing with each other, we can all use it and all benefit from it. So the best deal here is our office hours. And basically what that is you get to choose an hour of the month in which we work on whatever you want to work on. And if that means we go through your LinkedIn profile in detail and say, here are some things that you could optimize. If that means that we work on a campaign, whatever you like, we can do that. You get special deals on projects that we can work on together. We call them destinations because sometimes you want to sit in the back of the plane and not be driving. And those are different products and services that we can do for you, or using partners like Boostability, who does our search engine optimization. And so it's all kind of connected together and works really well. We have a book club. We made our selections for 2017. Everybody hopefully voted, and we'll get some of what they want in that. And we send a book each month with bookmarks in it. And then we have a discussion at the beginning of the month with John and myself and with selected members who choose to join us about that book and how it applies or doesn't apply to the aviation industry. You have the briefing room where you have our recorded webinars. So if you're looking for something on a particular topic, most likely there already is something there in the briefing room. Our Hall of Fame is profiles of each of our members. We interview them and put those interviews online with links to their profiles and their web pages and things like that, so that we can learn more about each other and make good referrals to each other. We just started our calendar. This is a printed wall calendar. It has important aviation conventions and other kinds of things. We talked about those calls for speakers and things like that. We want to make sure that nobody misses anything, especially on our watch. So this is going to be really, really helpful for that. We also put in our book clubs, webinars and live networking events and so on. Insiders' birthdays and all of that. We're just doing everything we can to kind of promote cohesiveness within the group. Another exciting thing, we announced this at our breakfast at NBAA, is our sales summit at Sundance, Utah. If you haven't heard of Sundance, it's really cool. Actually, Robert Redford wanted to get actors, directors, writers, other folks away from the politics and the BS of Hollywood, and found a place in the mountains in Utah where he could do that. And so we're going to spend pretty much 2.5 days in the mountains in Utah, working on your stories. Great movies are great stories, and great advertising is also great stories. So this is the best place in the world to do that. We've got some great guest speakers and fun activities and other kinds of things to make this really valuable, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and this is insiders only, so those folks are going to be invited to that event as well. So outcomes of the Insider Circle, we want to have a more robust, predictable, measurable, and stable marketing system every month by adding something to your marketing system and improving that infrastructure. You get a team of people that you can lean on and ask questions of and so on. It is much less expensive than consulting. We charge $2,000 a day plus travel and expenses when we go see people. And we still do that. When somebody wants very specific, devoted attention, we go to Napa and spend a few days at somebody's house. We've done that once.
Twice.
Yeah, a couple of times in different places where we spend devoted time with clients work on a particular project. But this is much less expensive and much more focused on a particular topic each month. All right, so you get our personal branding product free, right, when you join this month?
This month.
Exactly. And everything starts with a great first impression. You want to look at how you look online. Most purchasing managers look up a salesperson before they agree to meet with him or her. And they may use Google or Facebook or your company's website for your personal profile, but most times they start with LinkedIn. So we do all of those things, and we want to make sure that you look as good as you can in those places, because that's often the first impression that you have. So to get started, just go to abci1.com/insider-circle, and you'll see all of our the options and details and everything else. If you already are an insider, be looking forward to your printed calendar. That's kind of our big bonus this month. We're going to try and get them done before our packets go out again. And things. We're waiting on a few pieces of information. Not everybody has their calls for speaker dates out and things. So we're going to get that as complete as we can before we get that sent out. Okay. So that said, all right. So it's risk-free. I know a lot of people have asked, what if I get in and I don't like it? We have a money-back guarantee. And there is no long-term contract, so you can just get in for a month. You get the personal branding anyway, and life goes on. If it's not a good fit, we don't want to be stuck with you, and you don't want to be stuck with us, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. If it's not for you, you lose nothing, right? So the personal branding is a $779 value. You get that for free, and we will stay on the line as long as there are questions about this or anything else for that matter.
So, questions. Is the Sundance trip included?
$279 a month. I wish.
Uh-huh.
No, it's not. There will be a fee for the Sundance Summit, Sales Summit. We have not quite figured that out yet. We need to. We're working to get the cost of that really low for our insiders. So there will be food, lodging, horseback riding, video, recording, a lot of different things are going to go into that. And so there will be a cost involved, but we're going to keep the cost on that as low as we possibly can while still making that a really great event that's going to change your whole perspective on sales, right?
We're talking with those guys not right now, but we are talking with those guys.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know how much that's going to cost, but it will be an additional charge above the $279 a month. Okay.
So can we just buy the printed calendar?
Probably not. We may make it available at some point, but right now it's just for insiders, and that's what that is, and that's what it's for.
Okay. Well, they may not be happy with that one, but at least it's answered.
Okay.
Can we get this?
I didn't say they'd get an answer they like. I said we'd stay on and answer questions.
Oh, will you help us with our campaigns using office hours?
Yes, absolutely. So if you are a current customer, just schedule your office hours. One thing we'd really love to have you do is schedule at the same time every month and just have a standing office hour each month. And then if something comes up, we can always reschedule. But, you can use our online utility to schedule those office hours whenever you're available. I understand everybody's life is crazy. But let us know ahead of time. We want to work on a campaign, and send me anything you can regarding that campaign so we can take a look at it prior and come prepared, right?
You bet.
Yep, cool.
And somebody types like I do.
Oh, great. We have bad handwriting on the typing?
Yeah, well, they miss key things. How do you calculate ROI on a trade show?
Oh, very good question. How do you calculate ROI on a trade show? Unfortunately, there is not a very good answer. And the reason for that is because a trade show might be one of many factors that that leads toward a purchase. You don't really know if they've made the purchase because they met you at a trade show or not. The other thing that makes it hard is that the sales cycle is so long. But I'll tell you how we do it. And those are the reasons that it's not perfect, but here's what we do. When we do our sales numbers at the end of the year, and we're going to be doing that again here for 2016 fairly shortly, we look at all of the sales we made in 2016, and we look at the tags on those contacts that we made sales to, right? With me so far?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If they have an NBAA 2015 tag, then that is a sale that we can chalk up to the return on investment for NBAA 2015. Now, why am I saying 2015, not 2016?
Well, because it takes a while. But the thing is, as you can tell, it certainly helps if you have a CRM.
Exactly.
Otherwise, there's at least a lot of Excel spreadsheet stuff you got to put together.
Exactly. So, if we have an 8-month sales cycle and NBAA is in October or November, then we are not going to have a return on investment for this trade show this year. It's going to have to go into next year's calculations.
Yeah, because remember we said it's 8-month sales cycle.
Exactly. So if your sales cycle is shorter, of course you can calculate it sooner. But we only do this in great detail once a year because it's not really worth the hassle for us to do it more often than that. But if we look at our sales numbers for 2016 and we have a number of sales with that NBAA 2015 tag on them, and the amount of revenue that we have realized from those sales is some multiple of what we spent on NBAA 2015, we know we did good, right?
Of course.
Okay. And once again, it's not perfect because people are influenced by more than one factor, but at least we know we have a really good idea that was worth it, and then we'll increase our spending on NBAA or decrease it or whatever, make decisions based on 2015. So we're a year behind in our calculation.
Well, there haven't been any more questions since you've been talking the last one.
Okay, cool. So we're done?
I would say that given nobody says anything between now and time to sign off.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're really glad that you were here, and we will have this recording of this webinar available on our website in about a week. And Insiders, we look forward to seeing you next week to talk about Phase 3 campaigns. You know you're cool.